Okay, everybody. This is the third super student that I've interviewed on YouTube, and I wanted you to all find out what she did to get out of school so quickly. Rose was trained in my theory, the Magnum Steno theory, by Allie Hall, who has also joined us in the interview. And so we're blessed to have both of them here. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. So Rose, how old are you today?
I'm 21.
21. And how old were you when you first started the court reporting school?
I had just turned 20.
20. Okay. And did you have any education prior to that? Any post-high school education?
Yeah, so I went to University of Arizona and got a bachelor's of general studies, and I completed that in December of 2020. So 3 or 4 months after I started theory.
Great. And you completed something recently, was it that?
Yes, I completed that last December.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And it's a bachelor's degree?
Yes, the bachelor's.
Well, Rose, you completed it in December of 2020.
Yes, sorry, I got the years mixed up.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And is U of A in Tucson?
Yes, Tucson, Arizona.
Is that where you live?
Yes, lived here my whole life.
Great. Excellent. All right. So you started, what was it, fall of 2020?
Yes, September 24th of 2020 to be exact.
Okay. Okay. And you were an online live student with Allie Hall?
Yes, so it was through Oklahoma State University, and we met Thursdays and Fridays from, well, for my time, it was 3:30 to 8.
Okay. So about 4.5 hours then.
Yes, so 9 hours a week of class time.
Wow. Allie, you taught for 4.5 hours straight, two
Yes,
nights?
2 nights in a row.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, and what chapter did you get through, Allie or Rose?
I believe we got through chapter 50 with theory. Is that right?
Okay, excellent.
So the way that I teach it, I teach them through chapter 50, and then we start speed building. And then I have them do self-study for many of the chapters that are left, and I teach specific chapters for the next 3 months. So chapters 51 through the end of the book, I teach 1 chapter a week for 12 weeks, and they learn the rest self-study.
Excellent, excellent. Rose, I like to ask people who have graduated with my theory, if you had to estimate what percentage of the briefs that we offered in, say, the first 94 chapters, do you remember? Would you say it's 70, 80, 90, 95, 98%? What would it be?
For chapters 1 through 50, what we learned in theory, I focused really hard on mastering that portion of the book as much as I could. So I would say for the first 50 chapters, briefs, probably 90% or higher, phrases, probably 70%.
Okay.
Where after chapter 50, I really just dove into speed building, and I didn't focus much on further theory development. So it's something I want to go back into later on in my career, is getting through the rest of the book.
Okay, excellent. Have you ever perchance done a count of how many strokes per 100 words that you write at all?
I have not actually.
Okay. All right. Well, if you ever want to do that, you just find a take and just pick 100 words and see how many strokes you wrote.
Yeah.
And most of my students will be in the low 90s or low 80s or high 70s, depending on how short you write.
Mhm.
All right. So given that you had 9 hours a week, how many hours a day would you say that you spent practicing on the machine when it wasn't Thursday or Friday? Was it Thursday or Friday and Friday? Okay, so not Thursday and Friday, how many hours a day would you spend on the machine?
So I think it's different between theory and speed building. During theory, I probably practice on my machine 1 to 2 hours a day. And then once speed building started, or once I started testing, I brought it up to about 2 to 3 hours a day.
Okay. And did you have a job or anything else going while you were in theory? I mean, I know you were working on your degree as well.
So I started September of 2020. I was finishing up my bachelor's degree until December. And then as soon as I graduated, I started working at Taco Bell and I stayed there through April. And then I quit to focus on speed building full time. So for all of theory, I had something going on, but speed building April onward through July when I got certified, or September when I got certified, I was just focusing on speed building.
Okay, excellent. Let's see. Do you like the need and went right-hand phrase enders?
Yes, those I use those frequently.
Excellent. Did you ever master or get pretty good at the ask and told right-hand phrase enders?
I have not.
Okay, those are pretty cool. Those might be your next step.
Yeah, that's something that I've really wanting to start doing now that I'm getting more into the flow of working and getting comfortable with it. I want to start shortening things again.
Okay, and do you write your Q&A symbols with the vowels or without?
Without.
Okay, and what are the Q&A extensions that you use most of all?
So for the yes and no answers, I do why in the answer bank and
Oh, I don't mean how you write them, but I mean just what are they? Like answer yes, answer no.
okay. Yeah, I use answer yes, answer no. I use question okay, question all right a lot. Answer yes sir, answer yes ma'am.
Excellent.
Yeah.
When you got to higher speeds, did you find, say, testimony harder than literary or literary harder than testimony?
Testimony has always been my biggest struggle out of the three.
Yeah, it's always been harder for me as well. Whereas literary has become very easy just because the bigger words, we have briefs for all of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Okay, very good. So how many months was theory again, Allie?
So she took theory 1 and theory 2 from September to February. Then she did an introduction to speed building for a month where I kind of tested her hand speed and prepped her to begin speed building the end of February to the beginning of April. So it was probably about 4 to 5 weeks. And then during that period is also when I teach the advanced theory. So I was talking about going over the 1 chapter a week in the advanced chapters. So theory 1 and 2 is a 6-month course total. And then she was in introduction to speed building for about 5 weeks, and where we tested her hand speed. And I really tried to push her because I could tell she was so gifted on the machine. And then she started speed building, if I'm not mistaken, at exit speeds for literary and jury charge, and at 180 for Q&A.
And that was after exit speeds in jury and, did you say literary?
Yeah.
It was after how many months of being in school?
From September 24th, so almost the end of September, to the beginning of April.
Okay.
So a little bit more than 6, about 7 months total.
November, December, January, February, March, April. I'm getting 6.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 6 because we taught.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from September 24th until probably about February 24th or so, she learned theory. And then for about a 5-week window, she learned introduction to speed building. And then at the beginning of April, she started speed building.
Okay, so after 6 months, you were working on exit speeds in literary and jury charge,
Yes.
right? Excellent, excellent. And then you obviously got to exit speeds in the Q&A. Do you remember when you passed your last 225?
I passed so we needed 3 225s to graduate. So my official graduation was July 1st.
Okay,
Pushed her really hard to beat my speed building record with your theory. Because mine was 5 months with a long-handed theory. So I wanted her to get through speeds in quicker than 5 months if she could.
meaning 5 months of speed building or 5 months total?
5 months of speed building. Yes.
Okay. And I haven't done the math. Did she beat it?
Yeah, she did a little bit more than 3. Well, if you count the introduction, she did 4 months of speed building. Yes.
Okay. But so total time of graduation was what?
A year.
Not
10 months.
months.
Yeah. 10 months, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 10 months, if it was exactly 10 months, it would be late July.
It was actually nine months and 1 week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm
Yeah.
going by memory on some of this, but she
Late June or early July?
passed the very beginning of July, her last 225.
Okay, so
Yeah.
wow.
July 1st was my
July
last
1st.
test.
And she started September 24th and passed her last test on July 1st.
So 9 months and 1 week is how long you took from the first theory class. Wow, that's fabulous, Rose. Let's see, I left school after a year and 4 months, not graduating, but had passed my speeds. But I've passed my last speeds in, I think, a year and 3 months. So you slaughtered me. You did great. That's really wonderful. I had a question. What was it? When did you take the RPR then?
So I took all 4 legs in July and I passed the jury charge, the literary, and the written. And then I got a 90% on Q&A, so not a pass. And then I took the Q&A September 4th, and that's when I passed and got my RPR.
Okay, so you got your RPR. You even passed the last leg of your RPR in just a little over 11 months.
Yes.
Right? Excellent. That's really fabulous. Let's see. If you did you after the RPR, did you have to delete all your did you have to delete everything?
Yes.
Okay, because that would be cool to go back and count the strokes.
Yeah.
Okay, and what kind of machine are you writing on, Rose?
During school was a Luminex CSC, and then now I have a Luminex 2.
Excellent. That's great. And do you have it set on the shortest stroke?
Yes.
Excellent.
It took
Okay,
a lot of adjusting, but I found that I like it there the most.
good. Yes.
Mark, just in case you're curious, I did test her stroke count for 100 words when she was in her final speeds, and she was at 110. She was writing a little bit more out with phrases. Rose has always been very good at sounding words out that she couldn't quite come up with the 1 stroke for if she needed to. She's never struggled like some students do with phonetically, sounding things out that she couldn't get. So I think that kind of lends itself into that a little bit, but I haven't checked it since. It's been almost a year, I guess, about 10 months since I checked it.
I'd be eager to hear what it is. So the 110 lines up with the speed champions of the 70s and 80s, how short they wrote.
Yeah.
You heard my lecture where I explained that at the world record event. Okay, that's fabulous. And then is there a state test in Arizona?
Yes, but it's just a written test. They take the RPRs reciprocity.
Okay, and so once you pass the RPR, how long was it before you were able to work in Arizona?
So that's where it gets a little complex. I took the Arizona test in September, right after I got my RPR. And unfortunately, I actually never got the license approved until February, just due to them taking some time to process things. So in December, I applied for a Washington state license and I got that the next day, and I've been working remotely out of Washington since December.
Oh, that's excellent. That's really good. Are you taking depositions or other things or what?
Yes, depositions.
Great. And the firm you work for, you don't have to name it if you don't want. Is it a Seattle firm or?
It's Fuel Real Time in Seattle.
Excellent. That's great. And did you have any internship time where you sat in with another reporter of some kind?
So over the summer, while I was in that process of getting certified, I did sit in at our courthouse for a couple days, and I sat in with a local firm in town. And then I also did a few virtual depositions from all around the country.
Excellent. And did I hear that you have taken or are taking some legs of the RMR? In fact, I think you've passed the literary and jury charge of the RMR
Yes, I passed both of those last month.
last month, which would be March.
Yes.
Excellent. That's just fabulous. So few people are motivated to do that kind of thing, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
When will you take the third leg, or of the skills portion?
May 7th, so next week.
Oh, it's coming up. How do you feel about it?
I'm nervous, but I've been practicing at 280 and 300 and hopeful.
Where do you get your material to practice?
So I'm currently taking Allie offers a speed building for professionals course. So I've been taking that with her for the last couple of months, and we meet live on Mondays, and then we also have access to EV360 where there's RMR level dictation and there's also speed contest dictation. So that's what I've been practicing with mostly.
No Magnum Steno Club?
A little bit, yes. I'm trying to do a little bit more here and there.
Okay, but because there's so much good testimony there and you can speed it up and slow it down.
Yes.
Okay, well, that is great. Well, good luck to you. And if you pass, that's fabulous. And if you don't, that's fine too. You'll just pass it the next time.
Yep, that's the plan.
That's great. And so did you eventually, I guess in January, you did get accepted in Arizona?
In February, yes.
February. And did you start working in Arizona yet?
I have not. I've been doing all of my work through Seattle because they've been keeping me busy enough.
Okay, excellent. Well, that is super. Let's see, what else? How is your real time looking as far as when you're doing jobs that aren't too fast? How is it looking on your screen?
I'm happy with it. I can definitely tell I've improved just from when I started in December, because I found that it's quite an adjustment to write people speaking not in proper grammar, which I probably just didn't right now, but that's been a challenge, like doing all the hyphens and figuring out people's way of speaking, but I can tell I'm already getting more used to it and my transcripts are looking better.
Excellent, that's super. Do you plan on going for your CRR?
Yep, so as soon as I get my RMR, I plan on going for that the next cycle.
Oh, excellent.
We're trying to get her all 3 in 2 years.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Now, when you say next cycle, I didn't really know there was a cycle because I thought everyone just took it remotely. How does that work?
So the tests are offered every other month.
Okay. All right. And you just have to make apply and make an appointment, and that's the day?
So you sign up for it the month before and then you schedule it. And then the next month is the testing period. And then the next month is the sign up period, and it just alternates.
Any interesting stories about taking the RPR or RMR remotely? And anything that listeners might want to hear?
I've been fortunate so far to have had good experiences with Proctor U, but I've heard from other reporters that have had bad experiences. But I'm glad that mine has been well. And I know that we use the same system when I was at University of Arizona, so it's helpful that I was familiar with it already.
Okay, excellent. Allie, do you have any anecdotes or stories to share about your experience training Rose?
Well, one thing that I've noticed as an instructor for my students that make it through the part-time curriculum the fastest is that they're writing every single thing I'm saying when I'm teaching. So not just when I'm teaching a certain concept or a chapter, but even if I'm kind of going off topic and telling them a story or explaining something in depth, they're taking down as much as they possibly can from what I'm saying, and not just the new concepts that I'm introducing. So that's one thing that I noticed. Rose had taken the Project Steno A to Z course before. It was actually called, is it called Boot Camp, Rose? The one that you took? Basic training. There we go. I forgot. She took the basic training, so she already had familiarity with the keyboard. She worked really hard and did a lot of finger drills. That's also something that helped me get through speeds fast. So she was a big proponent of finger drills. She's a very clean writer. Her on Translate is almost non-existent, in addition to having all of the tools that your dictionary offers students. So I think that's a huge blessing. But she was just really studious and had this thirst for learning. I mean, I picked up on it very quickly, and she just allowed me to push her even when she was uncomfortable with being able to progress at what, she has some stats for you that she figured out on how many tests she took and the longest number of days she was stuck without a pass and things like that, because she figured some numbers out. But she just did every single thing I told her to do without questioning me or wondering if it was going to work. She was just willing to put the work in without letting, it's not that she didn't ever get inside her head, but she was able to quickly shut that off if she did and refocus on succeeding. And I think that, as an instructor, one of the things that stops students in their tracks is getting inside their head and not believing that they can do something. And so they their headspace kind of slows their hands down, for lack of a better way to explain it. But she was able to very quickly, if she was kind of getting off track with her headspace, we would kind of go in a little breakout room and have a one-on-one session, and I would try to talk her off the ledge. And she was very quick at refocusing her energy on the next pass or what she needed to work on. And the thing about Rose, I told her, I can see the gift that you have, but I don't ever want to push you farther than what you're comfortable with. So if I'm pushing you too hard, you need to let me know. But I really want you to succeed as quickly as you can and be able to start working. So we kind of had a balance where if I was, pushing her a little too hard, we would kind of talk it out. And because I was always convinced that she could make it through so quickly and break my record, but I didn't want to put too much pressure on her to do that. So I wanted to make sure that she understood if she needed to take a step back or slow things down, especially when we were doing that introduction to speed building period, where it was like a 5-week window where she was passing a test and I was testing her hand speed to kind of see where she would start theory at. I wanted to make it clear to her that if she felt like I was pushing her too hard, or hey, up until Rose, the fastest any of my students have ever started speed building was 160 words a minute. So if she wanted to stop at 160, let's stop at 160. That's amazing. Start speed building at 160. So that was just kind of something I noticed early on. She has this thirst for learning and she just soaks it all up. And she's the perfect student in a way that she doesn't make excuses. She's willing to put the time in to learn the skill. And she doesn't let things that are happening, like learning theory while she's finishing her last semester of her bachelor's degree. I mean, all of that memorization that's required during the theory process, there's students that are struggling when they don't even have to juggle that also and all that extra coursework. So I'm just really proud of her. She went all in every day and she really gave it 100% all the time and did everything that I asked her to do, even if she felt like I was telling her to practice, 225 when I was trying to get her to 180 to pass her 180. And she felt like it was a little too fast at first. And I told her it's going to be uncomfortable. Keep your hands moving. stay on top of the speaker, try to get a stroke for everything, even if it's sloppy, you're just building hand speed. And she was really good about just trusting the process and believing that she was going to get there, even if it felt uncomfortable.
Were you a perfectionist, Rose, by nature? By that, I mean, the court reporting students who are perfectionists, they can't stand going faster than they can currently go if it's going to make their writing get messy.
I would not describe myself as a perfectionist.
I wouldn't either.
Maybe my mom might, but
Okay.
Not when it came to the speed building process at all. She
Good.
doesn't seem to have, she takes everything very serious and she's very detail oriented, but she doesn't seem to have the aspect of the type A personality that kind of is attracted to this field that will get in their own way, if that makes sense, with the perfectionism. Like she wasn't concerned about watching her screen and on, in high speeds and making sure everything was coming up. She was very good at reading her notes and making sure that she could make sense out of her notes and figure it out when she was transcribing. But Rose, why don't you tell him about your testing and how many tests you took and the longest amount of time you were stuck?
yeah, just on a note on what you were just saying about perfectionism, one thing I would do is I would practice really fast speeds, and even if I wasn't getting anything, if it was all just a mess and my fingers were just hitting everything at once, like I would just keep doing that for 15 minutes straight, and I wouldn't feel down about it or feel like I'm not getting anything. I would just have trust in the process, and I think that just helps so much to just do your practice and trust that things are happening in the background. You can't watch everything happen in front of you. That was the biggest thing that helped me, is to just keep doing it and wake up every day and do it again and not think how fast I'm going.
Excellent. Are you a piano player, Rose?
I was classically trained in piano when I was a child, but I have not played in a while.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Now, Allie, I've heard that, and not in a bad way at all, I heard in a good way, that you push students really hard, and you don't take any nonsense.
It's true.
So how did that match with your saying, I wanted to make sure I didn't push her too hard? Because it sounds to me like you push everybody harder than they want to be pushed.
I did. I pushed her very hard, so don't get me wrong, but I wanted to make sure that she didn't get the pressure of performing and it became where she didn't enjoy it. So I didn't want to be that parent that's pushing a child to do something they don't want to do. But I'm like, oh, you started this, now you have to finish it. So I was trying to find a balance where I was helping her see her true potential, and I was pushing her a little further than what she was probably comfortable at the time. But the balance of saying, okay, at the end of the day, I care about your headspace and I don't want to push you into an area where you're, not in the right headspace to perform on the machine. I want it to be enjoyable and fun. So we need to find a balance, with that. So yeah, I mean, there's times where she tried to get inside of her head a little bit and we had a little talk and she was like, okay, I'll go do it. But I think the longest she ever went without a test pass was what? Was it like 23 days?
Yeah.
A little more than 3 weeks. So she had really good progress. She had a lot of good moments in speed building. She had times where she was disappointed, but she had the ability to dust herself off and get back in the chair and put the work in. But I'm very much, because when I went to school, a single mom that works full-time, goes to school full-time, and can get out that quickly. So my students can't really tell me they have no time to practice, or, they can't juggle everything, because I'm saying, you don't spend 5 hours a day on social media and then tell me you have no time to practice, that kind of thing. So I am kind of hard when it comes to trying to help them stick to the grind, because that's the only way they're going to move forward, is if they have that continual momentum, that forward momentum going.
And that's how I think Allie really helped me, was by always being available, always checking up on me, always making sure that I was pushing, that I was still doing well mentally. And she gave me she always gave me good goalposts to reach, which was really helpful for me because I love having a concrete goal in front of me that I can strive for. Like, she gave me the goalpost of trying to be at 180 for starting speed building. So I pushed really hard and I got there. And she gave me the goalpost of taking all 4 loads in July, which I did. And she gave me the goalpost of finishing out my RPR within the year of starting theory. So just having those goalposts was really helpful for me to look ahead and have something to strive for and have her by my side cheerleading me on.
Excellent.
Tell them what your current goalpost is.
I really would like to pass the RMR next week so I can do the speed contest in Orlando.
Wow, that would be incredible. That would be so wonderful. Oh, I'd love to see that, to have you sit down and write a 280. Yes, that Rose, that's going to be amazing. I'm really excited about that. That's super. Now, Allie, Rose said that she spent something like 2 hours a day outside class, or I can't remember if she said 2 to 3 hours, but I thought it was 2 hours.
Doing speed building.
Yes. Now that seems pretty low for a lot of students. Allie, would you attribute that to her natural talent level, or what would you say?
Well, I spend a lot of time teaching my students that it's quality practice over quantity. And I want to make sure that every time they sit at the machine, it's focused practice and not just flailing away at the keys because they feel like they have to put a certain number of hours in a day. So I spend a lot of time teaching them before we start speed building what focus practice is, and that they need to split their time up throughout the day so that their brain has to think about it more often, and that it needs to be smaller increments of focused practice is going to get the job done over quantity. So that's
Good.
kind of, yeah.
That's excellent. That's what I had to do for my world record, because I still have to work, and so I had to do that too. I probably didn't do more than 2 hours a day practicing for that, and usually less. So Rose, when other students hear about your accomplishments and how quickly you finish school and how quickly you pass the RPR and the RMR, they would have the tendency to not only chalk you up as a great talent, which is obviously true, but they might also think it was easy for you. And so what would you say, or what could you share with students about struggles you actually had and had to overcome that might help other students? Because talented people do work hard, and talented people do have to overcome things.
Yeah, I'd say getting in the right headspace for speed building and transitioning from theory to speed building was a challenge for a couple of weeks, especially since I just finished school where obviously coding school and speed building is incredibly different than any other type of schooling. It's with regular schooling, we're going to be aiming to pass, and you're going to pass way more than you fail, but in code coding, there's a good balance of passes and fails, and the fails are important to the passes. They're not actually negative fails. And so it was kind of a mind I had to transition to know that I'm testing for progress, not for passes every single time. And yeah, just getting into the right headspace, getting myself to take what I learned in theory and put it towards speed building. I learned the briefs very quickly in theory, and I really wanted to write short with the briefs and phrases that I learned, but I was sort of also battling writing short versus writing out more because it was coming a little bit more naturally to me. So I was also trying to find the right balance of those two. But yeah, I would say those were the struggles.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's see. What else could I ask you? either Rose and or Allie, what are the nature of the finger drills that you did that you found helpful?
So I've used this book, which is blurry, but it's the Sanford Howard finger drill book. I've been using that since pretty much theory, and I practice about 10 to 15 minutes a day at the start of all of my practice sessions. And I still do it now, even before jogs, for 5 minutes, which is a quick warm up. And I find that they really help get your fingers knowing where to go, where the letters are, and they help with dexterity. I think they really help boost your accuracy.
Your camera didn't autofocus. What's the name of the book?
Yeah. It's Steno Finger Technique by Sanford Howard, and I believe I got it on Amazon.
Okay.
Stenotype Finger Technique is the name of the book, and she bought it on Amazon.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. And so is that the book that you recommended to her, Allison?
Yeah, I have a printout that I received when I was in court reporting school. I still have the same PDF, and it's from that book, I believe. They're very similar. And so what it helps me with is specific fingers that I either drag in keys or drop them. I work on those specific fingers, and I focus from reading my notes on what my struggles are as a working reporter. So if I constantly bring in the final L when I don't need it, I'll work on those specific drills for that finger. One finger drill that I've really incorporated for myself since I switched over to your theory, because I was new to the Philadelphia shift. So I like to do the Philadelphia shift and the California shifts back and forth, and just do, SD, TZ, SD, TZ, back and forth, so that those two fingers, especially my pinky, because that's, tends to be my weakest finger on my right hand, because that's where my arm injury was. I'm able to strengthen those concepts. So I don't know, it seems like it also solidifies it in my muscle memory. So my fingers know exactly where those keys are, and they go right to those keys. I very rarely have a wrong outline. My notes are so clean, and I'll drag a key in or something. Don't get me wrong, it'll happen, or I'll accidentally drop a key, but my fingers are generally on the right keys, and I think that finger drills, for me personally, I don't know if it's because my instructor was such a big proponent. She made us do 15 minutes a day, 7 days a week. And so I've always made my students do 10 to 15 minutes a day for a part of their practice. And I just find that it seems to be helpful on strengthening certain, like for me, another outline for me that I always have to work on is my final FN, because I always want to drop the B. And yes, I can set my software so that it recognizes that sometimes I drop the B, but I want to try to be more intentional and make sure my notes are clean. So that's another concept I work on, is like the final FN.
Got it. And then at the beginning of speed building, something I struggled with was the initial S and K. I was mixing those up a lot. So I asked Allie what I could do to help with that, and she gave me the finger drill SPA, KHAO back and forth. And doing that every day for like just a couple minutes, doing it really fast, pretty much eliminated that problem.
I see. Well, that is excellent. Allie, how did you, how were you able to give Rose proper speed training when you had, I assume all your other students were not near as fast?
So the way that I do my speed building classes, I actually break them into 2 groups based off of their speed. So we use EV360, which you also use at your school. And when group A, I take them into a breakout room since I'm teaching on Zoom. Group A is going to be from speeds 140 to 225. And I take them in the room and I dictate at speeds from 140 to 240. And I teach them when they're practicing what they need to focus on, depending on what speed they're at, that there's different methods of practice. Every time they sit down to practice, it isn't to get every single word that's being said. So if I'm dictating 225 and somebody's writing at 140, I'm telling them, I want you to write every phrase you hear. And I want you to practice only phrasing. Or I want you to make sure you hit every Q&A bank. Every Q&A bank I want you to hit. Don't worry about what words are being said. So I dictate from 140 to 220, 225 or 240, and I stair step it. So we always start at the high speed and work our way down to the 140. And then while those students are in the breakout room with me, the rest of my class is in the main classroom online, and they're working independently in EV360 speed building at their own speeds. Then when I'm done dictating for about 30 minutes to the first group, they move over to the main room, and I bring the second group in and I dictate for them at 80 words a minute to 140. So those students are anywhere from 60 words a minute up to 120. So I have 2 speed building classes with 47 students in each class, and I have them at varying speeds, and I'm the only instructor, but I've taught them to practice in a way that, don't get me wrong, the ones that are at 60 and 80 are not practicing at 225. But I
Right.
find that it really helps the ones that are at 140 to listen and have their brains process dictation at 240, so that when they get to 160 or 180 and they're used to practicing at that, all of a sudden their brain is not telling their hands that it's too fast for them to get it. It's just their hands doing what they're trained to do. So
Yeah.
that's how I've always handled speed building. This is the first group that I taught 100% online, because of COVID and everything. So I had 3 students on the front end that were all in the fast group, and that's it. And the rest were all in the slower group when we first started speed building in April of 2021. So I had Rose that was at the 180 for lit and Q&A and 200 for jury. And then I had 2 other students that were at 160 for jury charge and Q&A, and probably 140 for literary. Those 2 students, the other one certified this month and passed his test. And then the third student needs 1 more leg, and she's taking it in May. So she's hoping to certify in May. So they're both right at 18 months from the time that they started theory. So at the beginning, it was just those 3 students, and then everyone else was in the slower dictation room. So at that time, I was probably dictating up to about 200 for them, just from about 140 to 200 or 225. And then as people passed tests and moved up in speeds, they started getting upgraded to the second dictation class. And then I encourage my faster students, if they want to stay for the second dictation, they should, to work on accuracy and to get all of their punctuation. So some of them would stay and listen to the slower dictation, even though they were writing faster, just so they could work on accuracy and write all of their punctuation on the machine.
Excellent. Well, you're a very creative teacher, and I think teachers could learn a lot from the kind of things you're doing. They're very creative and original.
Thank you.
It's really something. All right. Is there anything else you guys can think of? I can't think of anything else to ask either of you.
Well, I just want to say, I think it's a huge blessing for students to learn your theory and to be given your working dictionary. I've had a lot of transfer students, and they're working with sometimes a dictionary that might have 2,000 entries in it. That's it, 2,000 entries. And they're frustrated because they're having to type so much into their tests, and they're running out of time to transcribe their tests. So I just want to say, as somebody who wasn't fortunate enough to learn the theory, but realizes the value in it, and, as a working reporter, I've spent, 7 years now trying to shorten my writing to it. It's just such a huge blessing for students to get those resources and to learn how to phrase and write short, right from chapter 1, they're phrasing. And I just think that's amazing. And the fact that they're given a dictionary that has, 720 or 30,000 entries last time we got one from you. So I just want to thank you on behalf of students, because I think that that's a really good way for them to get, basically, I feel like students that have that kind of dictionary or database when they start their career, they have 2 feet forward, and maybe and both hands. And maybe a student who's learning a different theory and or has to build their own dictionary or have a really small dictionary that they're translating from, they have 1 foot forward in both hands, so I just think that it really gives students that extra. It's like having a beautifully wrapped Christmas present with a bow on top, like it's just perfectly wrapped. And I just think that, as an instructor, I just think that it's important to say that I've noticed the benefits of the short theory and what kind of blessing it is for new professionals to be able to start their career and not have all of that extra stress that comes with having to type so much stuff into their transcripts or things that aren't translating all the time. So yeah, it's just, there's stuff every day in the dictionary that comes up that I know is not in my dictionary, but it works because I can think of how Mark would write it. And then, it would be in my dictionary and it would just translate. So I just wanted to say, as an instructor, thank you for that, because that's a huge gift for students to be given that.
Well, thank you. And your answer made me think of two other questions to ask Rose. Rose, do you use the years in one stroke?
So I actually use, Allie gave me a copy of her years in one stroke briefs and I
Got
use
it.
those.
Okay, no problem. And the second one, do you ever use the phrases?
No.
Okay.
It's
No
something
problem.
I can look into.
I
later,
do.
Sure.
I use the phrases. So
You
the
do?
years in one, yeah, I use those. The years in one stroke as an instructor, I need to find a few hours where I can really dive into that chapter and get a better understanding, because that was hard for me to understand. So that's one where I just kind of told my students, this is what I use. It's not the same system as yours because it's only like, from 2000 on, which are the most frequently dictated years in tests. So I just gave them 2000 to 2030 and made that one of the self-teaching chapters and said, if you'd like to use my outlines, here they are. And if you would like to tackle this chapter, tackle it and then teach it to me, because I haven't had time to sit down, and I really want to make sure when I'm teaching the chapters, I have such a good understanding of a way to explain it that's like a brain trigger to make it easier for memorization. And when I started trying to teach that, it's an amazing concept, but I just couldn't get on the front end that brain trigger for me where I could figure it out, where I probably had enough time to focus on it.
I'm wondering if you shouldn't watch my class where I teach it.
Probably, that would probably help me, because if I don't want to teach it if I don't have a great understanding of exactly how it works, because I want to be good at teaching it. And so for me, that was just one chapter where I was like, okay, here's my PDF. If you want to use this, you can, but this is a self-study chapter. And if you, I did have a couple of students that taught themselves the year in one stroke. I think Drew did, Rose. Yeah. So I did have a few.
Well, one advantage of it is you can also do all the 1900s.
Yes.
And the second thing is you can put the word in front of everyone. So you can do in 2010, in 2025. And you also can put commas around the year with the system.
Yeah, I know a few reporters that use it with the commas and they rave about it.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, if you want, I can teach you personally sometime, Allie, how to.
There we go. Well, I'll watch your class. That'll work for me.
Okay.
Once I have access, I'll watch your class, and once I watch your class, I'll take it down on my machine and then I'll probably understand it.
Okay, cool. And Rose, are there any favorite theory concepts that you really just like that you'd want to share with me?
One that I use a lot is the using the SZ for any, for do you have any or did you have any, or adding the G for do you have anything, did you have anything. Those I use all the time and they're really helpful.
Those were invented by Clay Frazier. Yeah, so those were great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was a great interview. I just loved it. And I'd like to post it on YouTube and on the Magnum Steno Club if I can have your permission.
Yeah.
Great, great. Later in the interview, Rose, your microphone started sounding a little like you were in a barrel.
Oh.
Could you hear that too, Allie?
A little bit. I was having a little bit of trouble understanding for a little bit.
Yeah, but earlier it was better, but we could still understand you, I think, if we listen carefully.
Okay.
So thank you so much and congratulations. I'm really proud of you, and I'm just as proud of you, Allie. You two worked together to just do a great thing, and I'm eager to see more amazing accomplishments out of you, Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, and thanks again.
You too.
Bye.